Excellent. Thank you, Ruth, so much for having me. Welcome, everyone, to Playing to Your Strengths. This is your roadmap to personal and team excellence and fulfillment. Again, thank you to Ruth for inviting me to speak today for the Move Forward community. And thank you, everyone, so much for your warm welcome. I'm glad that you're here, and I trust that our content today will serve you well wherever you are in your career or your business, and most especially as you look for ways to cope and find peace as we navigate these strange times that we're in. My goal in our time together is to convince you that your strengths serve as your greatest opportunity for personal and team excellence and fulfillment. I want you to imagine where you and your team could be if you applied your strengths every day. And when I say team, I'm referring to your perhaps your work team, your uh, family team, your volunteer team, wherever it is that you work with a group of people. And as we get started, I'd like to invite you to put aside the distractions. And whatever happens this morning or what you're thinking about that you need to get done this evening, put it aside. Let's enjoy this 1 hour together. Come stay focused so that you can walk away with something useful. And I want you to think about why you decided to come. What about this topic interested you? And what do you want to get out of our time together? Feel free to post in the chat some of those thoughts. To spark some thoughts, let me ask you a few questions. In an interview setting, have you ever asked or have you been asked, what are your strengths and weaknesses? What are your responses? Are you or others able to get specific enough to differentiate from other candidates? Or is the response the very generic, I like to work with people, or I'm good with numbers, and you just leave it at that? At the end of your day, do you feel fulfilled? On your drive home or or the walk from your home office to the kitchen, do you say it was an awesome day? The work that I did today is really making a difference for my client or for my team. And finally, is there more that you want to bring on? Are there days when you feel like you're just going through the motions, or perhaps that you and your team aren't all in like you used to be? You might feel that there is more that you can contribute, a place where you'd really like to make an impact. In our time together today, we're going to talk about why look at strengths in the first place. Where did this concept come from, anyways? And what do we know today? And how to get started. I'm going to include some case studies along the way to deepen the learning. I'm also going to share with you part of my story, where all of this came from, and our time is going to go by really fast. One of my top 5 strengths is maximizer. So I've crammed a ton of stuff to give you as much value as possible in this 1 hour together. I will stop periodically to ask for some comments, and mostly we'll be using the chat to make sure that we use to use our time effectively, and that I get all of this great content to you. By the way, you will notice lots of pictures of flowers, nature, gardens, a gardening theme. And the reason I chose this theme is that focusing on our strengths brings out the best in us. We blossom like a flower does. In this strengths exploration process, we can't help but grow. As we find the courage, we are encouraged to step outside of our comfort zones to something bigger and greater. And because transformation is a process, I want to give you ways and opportunities to continue the conversation, deepen your learning, So for fun, I'm going to do a giveaway at the end. Uh, One lucky winner will receive a Clifton Strengths Top 5 assessment, access code to be able to do their assessment, and a 60-minute coaching call with me. So to enter, there is a raffle form, and I believe that Ruth will be putting that in the chat. Let me just open up the chat as well. Excellent. Thank you so much. So please, if you're interested in doing some exploration, enter the raffle. All right. So I'm Nermeen Zachary. Let me tell you a little bit about myself and how I got to the place to be here in front of you today. For as long as I can remember, I have been fascinated with the amazing things that people can do, their unique talents and their gifts. Ever since I learned about these cool tools to discover our personal talents, I think I've been on a personal mission to call out people's strengths, to help them find their unique edge. I couldn't wait to get the training I needed, the certification, so I could have purposeful, impactful, life-changing conversations with folks. And the more immersed I got, the more I saw changes in myself, in my relationships, and how I showed up to own the best of who I am. My personal transformation only came about fairly recently. My world shifted the day that I attended a workshop at Xerox called Discover Your Strengths. I made a lot of important discoveries that day, not just my strengths. I also noticed how happy I was when I had the opportunity to use them. Uh, and I also learned how how they also sometimes got in my way. You see, I was the only one in that conference room that day that didn't like her strengths profile. I saw my fluffy relationship words as my weaknesses. I walked into that conference room that day thinking this was just another silly personality test. And I walked out understanding so much about my past and saying, everybody needs to know their strengths. Everybody needs to know their strengths. My frustrations date back to my high school and my college story. There were high expectations in our Egyptian culture. I was a straight A student, a cheerleader, student council president who loved biology and chemistry and wanted to help people. My dad is a doctor. I naturally wanted to be a doctor, and everyone around me thought I would be. I received awards and scholarships at graduation because Nermeen was going into the medical field, only to start at SUNY Binghamton and to bomb my first biology exam. I got a 54. It was a bit of a shock to my system, and although I managed to recover, I did better on my next exam. It shook me up enough to ask, is this what I really want? Do I love it enough to work this hard for the next 8 years of my life? And that question put me into a spiral. I started to explore other fields, economics, sociology. Nothing was satisfying. Only at the end to graduate with a BA in biology, a Bachelor of Arts in a science, basically a degree I couldn't do anything with. Pretty successful in high school, I felt like a total failure in college. And this disappointment stayed with me for close to 20 years. 20 years of my life, I spent wondering who I was, what happened to me, what was wrong with me, why couldn't I achieve what I had set out to do? 20 years later, after some major events in my life, I was inspired and finally took action to go back to school. I got my master's degree, which took me to Xerox, which took me to Strengths, which brings me to you. There's so much more to share, perhaps over a cup of coffee one day, virtual coffee, in-person coffee. Would love to spend that time with you. Bottom line, I don't want you to spend another day wondering, questioning who you are and the value you bring, let alone 1, 2, 5, 10, or God forbid, 20 years. So let's dig in. Why look at strengths? These 6 human needs are not desires or wants. They are psychological needs that we can constantly work to satisfy on a mostly unconscious level of awareness. They are certainty, uncertainty, and variety at the same time, significance, connection, and love, growth, and contribution. Anthony Robbins, world-renowned entrepreneur, author, peak performance strategist, is quoted to say, "The force of life is the drive for fulfillment." We all have a need to experience a life of meaning. And fulfillment can only be achieved when we're living focused on 2 needs: the needs to continuously grow and the needs to contribute beyond ourselves in a meaningful way. So we ask ourselves, are we feeling fulfilled? And if we're not, there's a reason we may feel we haven't quite achieved this yet, that we still have some unmet needs. From early in our lives, we're taught to believe that we should always do our best, that we can fix our flaws, that we can overcome whatever stands in our way, and that we can be and do anything we want if we put our minds to it and we work hard at achieving it. And as individuals, we expect that if we act on this belief with vigilance, we will ultimately be successful and happy in our careers, in our relationships, and in our lives. However, what we often experience is that things haven't quite worked out the way we planned or wanted, and we don't know why. You see, experts and researchers in the field have uncovered 3 myths which persist in both our personal lives and in the world of business, and each of which has the potential to drain our personal effectiveness if we believe them. Curious to know if any of you have ever believed any of these, and I'd like to open it up for a minute here to hear 1 or 2 comments. What are your thoughts?
If you want to speak, unmute yourself and then offer a comment.
Go ahead, Rusty.
I believe that you're looking for me to confirm whether or not I've believed any myths, and I'm waiting for you to enumerate or state some of those myths to which I can say yay or nay. Please continue.
Oh, you can't see the screen, Rusty?
I do not see a screen.
Oh,
Okay. So the 3 myths. I do hope everyone is seeing the presentation.
We can see the screen on the computer. We can see the screen.
Rusty doesn't have a camera or video.
The video. All right. So the 3 myths are: as you grow, your personality will change over time.
Rusty can now see the screen.
Oh, great.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So any thoughts?
I've actually never heard of any of these, so
Fair enough.
yeah.
Number 1 is one that I've heard a lot.
Oh, okay.
Number 1, as you grow, your personality change. Yeah.
Yeah, but actually what I've seen is it becomes magnified. Whatever it is, it's just magnified.
But whatever it was, it becomes magnified.
Yeah.
Did you see the next slide? And then awesome. And 3 and okay. So folks still believe number 6.
I've
1.
always been active, like volunteering with much older people. And over the years, and in my own family, I've seen with older relatives that whatever they are known for, they're more of that when they're like 90.
There you go. There you go. Okay. Excellent.
This is Steve. I'll just comment that I find it interesting that bosses try to make you work on your weakest areas instead of your strengths.
And yeah, that's interesting, and I'm glad you said that. Actually, we're going to touch on that again a little bit later. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. It seems like there's a couple things here that we do believe or have heard in the past, and I'm hoping to convince you otherwise. What we believe the truth to be is, as you grow, you become more of who you already are. So Ruth, it just becomes amplified. Your values, your skills, your self-awareness, and some of your behaviors may change, but the most dominant aspects of your personality will remain the same. The second one, you will grow the most in your areas of greatest strength. You'll be the most inquisitive, the most resilient, most creative, most open to learning in your areas of strength. And then finally, a good team member deliberately volunteers his or her strengths to the team most of the time. And listen to this, a great team member is not well-rounded. The great team is well-rounded precisely because each great team member is not. So instead, it is better for us to focus on what is right with us and to avoid expending our emotions, our intellect, and our energy on our shortcomings, when we can more effectively achieve the excellence and the greatness we want by harnessing the power of our personal strengths. We will get the greatest return on investment when we put our energy and our effort into the areas of natural talent, as opposed to investing in areas where there's only marginal growth potential. And when individuals know, understand, and use their strengths every day, they can expect productivity to be higher, individual performance to be higher. They will be more engaged at work and part of a high-performing team. They will experience high teamwork. Why? Because when I know my strengths, I get curious about other people's strengths, and I invite their strengths into my space, and it has this ripple effect. It's contagious in the best possible way. I worked with Christine while she was interviewing, and one of her biggest takeaways in our work together was that all of her strengths were at play in her greatest successes. This was a huge aha moment for Christine. So I invite you to think about the truths that we just uncovered, and for you to consider, which of the truths about strengths will you embrace today? And I'd like for us to do a short exercise. If you have a piece of paper and pen handy, let's take a moment to jot some things down. I want you to think back over the last couple of weeks. Go back further if you need. What activities did you look forward to, did you enjoy doing, or that made you feel strong? I'll pause here for 20, 30 seconds or so, give you a second to write them down. And hang on to them, because we're going to refer back to them again in a little bit. And certainly while we're continuing, if you think of anything else, please be sure to jot it down. And in the interest of time, I'm going to continue. Again, what did you look forward to? What did you enjoy doing? And what made you feel strong? Once again, your strengths serve as your best opportunity for excellence, for personal and team excellence and fulfillment. Imagine where you and your team could be if you applied your strengths every day. So where did this where did this concept of focusing on strengths come from? Psychologists back in the 1950s realized that all they knew about people is what's wrong with them. They had labels for all of our maladies, all of our diseases. What happened is they started to notice pockets of excellence, moments of extraordinary performance, and they realized we don't know anything about that. Donald Clifton, now called the father of strengths-based psychology and the grandfather of positive psychology, he had the audacity to ask this question: what will happen when we think about what is right with people rather than fixating on what's wrong with them? This one question launched a worldwide research project, which led to the development of a universal language for the descriptions of 34 general talent themes. That is, hundreds and hundreds of talents were encompassed and grouped accordingly. It also led to the development of the Clifton Strengths Assessment, or Strengths Finder as you might know it, which upon completion ranks all 34 talent themes for you in the order of dominance. And for your initial investment, it reports back to you your top 5 talent themes out of the 34, which is all you need to get started on your personal strengths journey. And I'm curious to know, type in the chat or give me a thumbs up if you've heard of the Clifton Strengths Finder assessment before. Awesome. Excellent. So there's a handful of folks that have heard of it before. Okay. Okay, excellent. I'm going to tell you a little bit more and and share with you. So thank you for that. I want you to know the strengths movement is truly now, it's in full bloom. It is being used in all disciplines. It's being used in business and government, education and healthcare, in profits, nonprofits, universities. Even Major League Soccer has a strengths-based coaching course. Referees learn to give out green cards to attract attention to good passes or tackles versus the yellow and red punitive cards. In fact, more than 24 million people have taken the Clifton Strengths Finder assessment. This number keeps going up, by the way. Every couple of months after when I deliver this presentation, the numbers go up. We are hungry. We are hungry and feel a deep need to label what is right with us. Yet in a recent poll, still only 17% of us are playing to our strengths most of the time. It seems we might still be stuck at the labeling stage. Someone brought this up earlier. Let's consider conversations at work. When employees are asked about discussions around performance, what do you spend the most of your time talking about? Strengths or weaknesses? There you have it. 35% say they talk about weaknesses. 40% say my manager doesn't talk to me about these things. 25% talk about strengths. Only a quarter of managers really take the time to emphasize and amplify the strengths. So a nationally represented sample of the workforce, again, was asked what their ideal job is. Again, here, as it shows, 60% said either what I'm doing now with increased responsibility or a specialized subset of what I'm doing. About a third of us said a different job. So most of us are close. Some of us have been miscast, but most of us are close. What I want to bring your attention to, though, is the second bullet. When asked how often do you feel an emotional high at work, only 51% said about once a week. That's half of us that are feeling an emotional high at work, excited about our work, engaged, feeling fulfilled about once a week. Folks, we can't win on just once. a week. I want you to know how special you are. Did you know that you can do one thing better than 10,000 other people? And the chances that you will find someone with the same top 5 strengths that you have in the same order is 1 in 33 million. When we extrapolate that out to your top 10 strengths, which you can readily access, the chances are 1 in 427 trillion. Mind-boggling. You are unique, and you have something important and significant to contribute to our world. Your strengths serve as your best opportunity for personal and team excellence and fulfillment. Imagine where you and your team could be if you applied your strengths every day. Brianna started to feel the itch. She was ready to move on to the next big thing. Strengths coaching helped her shift her focus to a career path that best suited her strengths. It was no longer a job hunt, rather a search for the best fit. I like to stop here and check in. What resonates so far? Feel free to type in the chat or unmute and share your thoughts.
I'll say something if no one's going to speak. I work with people on crafting their career materials. And the truth is that I run into a lot of people who really aren't sure where they want to go. They just pick a job that I already know how to do this job. I'll just do it again. And I just think that it can be very beneficial to take a couple steps back and just ask yourself really, is this what you really want to do? And I just want to give you all permission to do that.
Thank you, Ruth. Sometimes that's what we need, is someone to give us permission. And Ray comments here. Much of my success comes from finding and amplifying strengths in others. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing.
That's
Excuse me.
I have a comment or question maybe. Do those stats kind of reflect too what's happening now with people quitting their jobs? They're realizing that they're not happy in those positions and they've seen what's happening and they can
In the world, yeah.
looking at their priorities differently and things like that.
I think COVID definitely, accelerated some of this, and the people are doing some soul searching, and
I'm seeing that too.
yeah.
It's
Excellent.
actually almost an unexpected good thing to come out of this for a lot of people.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you. Again, feel free to type in the chat and any additional thoughts that you have, and we'll open it up again in shortly for more comments. So how do we play to our strengths? How do we move beyond this once a week? First, let's take a step back and define a strength. It starts with your innate talents, the ways that you naturally think, feel, and behave. When you invest in your talents by increasing your knowledge, gaining skills, and practicing, you produce a strength. which is the ability to consistently provide near perfect performance in a specific activity. People Acuity, the organization I certified with, takes it a step further and adds the element of energy to the mix and suggests that we are our best selves in our optimal zone. That is when we're experiencing both high energy and high performance for self and others. We all understand that low performance coupled with low energy is probably an area of weakness. It's not somewhere that we want to be. I can have high energy for, and then so moving on, I can have high energy for an activity and low performance, perhaps a hobby, something I might enjoy doing, but don't do that well. And you might say, oh no, here comes Nermeen again. Leaving a trail of dead bodies is not a sign of a strength. Or I can demonstrate high performance in an activity and absolutely dread doing it, where there's low energy. For example, I might be great at organizing, but the thought of organizing that desk drawer is just daunting. That's not my optimal zone. I want to be at both high energy and high performance to really show up and be at my best. Optimal zone is where my strengths are fully at play. What are some things you can do to discover your strengths? Something you can do right now is to start noticing. Start noticing the activities that you are naturally drawn to. Where does learning come easy for you? When do you feel that deep satisfaction, contentment, when you've completed an activity? Timelessness. You're so engrossed in an activity that you lose all track of time. And then there are those moments of excellence, those glimpses when you look back and say, wow, I just did that. Let's consider some other ways to look at our strengths. In strengths-based leadership, the authors organized the 34 talent themes into 4 domains of leadership strength. Each domain describes how strengths can be leveraged in leadership for the effectiveness of the organization. Again, when we say team or group or organization, we're referring to any group that you are part of, any group that you are in, anywhere that you interact with others. The first 2 of the 4 domains are task-oriented. They're strategic thinking and executing. The second 2 are relationship-oriented, influencing and relationship building. In essence, strategic thinkers keep us focused on what could be. Folks with executing strengths know how to make things happen. Influencers sell the team's ideas inside and outside the organization, and relationship builders are the essential glue that holds the team together. We're going to take it a step further. Let's talk about a foundational concept and the understanding of the application of strengths, the use of them. The first half of this concept is this, that our strengths inform the kinds of contributions that we will make. You see here the types of contributions typical of each of these 4 domains. Again, these are high level to each domain. Each of your strengths make very specific contributions. You'll see here strategic thinkers provide us with possibilities, direction, information, ideas. Folks with executing provide us with concrete reality, details, goals, processes. Influencers convince, ignite, enroll, energize us. Relationship builders connect, invite, listen, and accept. So I have a question for you. As you consider the contributions that you naturally make, I'm sure that you found yourself in at least a couple of these bullets, of these items here in each of the 4 domains. you might be primarily in one or two, but I know that you found yourself in a couple of these. I'm curious to know if they relate to or are similar to some of the things that you wrote down earlier. A few minutes ago, you wrote down the things that you look forward to, that you enjoy doing, and that make you feel strong. Are you seeing a correlation between the things you wrote down and any of these things listed here? Would love it. I'm happy to hear a comment or two if you are noticing.
Yes, Nermaine, Rusty Tyson here again. I would like to say that all the things you've been discussing since I last spoke up seem very logical and straightforward. They are part of all of the strengths that I have, and I've found a strong connection between what you've been presenting and my experiences. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Rusty.
Yeah, this is Eric. For myself, definitely task oriented. I knew that about myself. I've known that for a while. And going back to what you were talking about earlier, most of my growth over the last, say, 20 years of my professional career has come on the relationship side, because I've really focused on people before task and about building the relationship, because the task part comes easy for me, right? So it's when you understand that. So I somewhat counter a little bit to what you're saying earlier, for myself about playing to your strengths, because you always want to play to your strengths, but I definitely have found my most growth when I've gone out of my comfort zone to make myself more well-rounded professional instead of a single area focused. So that's been my experience.
And we'll talk about that again in a second, that it's certainly we're not, we'll come back to that in a second, Eric. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I think I found like strategic thinking as an obvious strength, but I think some of the strengths, sometimes they can filter into the other sections. It might not be a complete strength at 100%, but it could filter into like information ideas could filter into details and processes, for example, in my case, and maybe for others, it could also, certain relationship strengths could be 100% and could also fall into tasks as well.
So this is, what you'll find is that, there are things we know about ourselves, but the assessment is also, there's 177 statements that it asks you to decide whether you really think, feel, and behave like this, or really think, feel, and behave like this. And the algorithm is intense. So what we think we know about ourselves, it's kind of cool when we do an assessment like this, the things that we uncover, and the more we dig deep, the more we find out about ourselves. And so I highly encourage you to do the assessment and get the results and see where kind of, where you fit. And I hope that you are seeing those correlations between the things that you've enjoyed doing and the things you do know about yourselves here. Like I said, I walked in, I probably would have told you a couple of different things. And perhaps, I don't know, if I walked in and I had seen these, the connecting, inviting, listening, accepting, I might have said these were possibly my strengths, but I didn't agree in the beginning with a story for another time. Let's continue, because this is the second part. Rusty's asking about where we can get the assessment. I'll get that. We're going to get to that in a second here. The second part of this concept, and this foundational concept that you need to know, is that in order for you to make these amazing contributions, there are certain needs and conditions that need to be met. Strategic thinkers need room to imagine, high level why and what, be able to give and share information. Executing, they provide us with goals and processes. Look at what they need. They need much of the same things to be practicable, applicable, step by step. Influencers need to be able to verbally process their thoughts, connect to something important, validation. They provide us with energy. They also need energy. Relationship builders need authentic relationship, encouragement, listening. They're amazing listeners. They also need someone to listen. They also need to be in a place of non-judgment. The thing is, the needs of our strengths can tip us up or down. So what happens? What happens when the needs of my strengths aren't met? I can do one of three things. First, I might feel all I can do is kind of just shove my thoughts, my ideas, my contributions under the rug. No one cares. I'm just waiting for the world to respond. Secondly, I could go overboard and decide I'm going to take control. What might happen is I'll trample over people, their feelings, and I'll probably leave some burnt ashes along the way. Or third, I might decide I just don't care and do nothing. Or what I do just becomes a transaction. There's no meaning or feeling. Any of these three result in a frustration. And a frustration is an unmet need. Can you relate to a time when your needs were not met? What else causes frustration? When I'm forced to perform in an area of non-strength, a draining, unsatisfying activity. Or when I'm working with others who have opposite strengths, that is, when we don't understand each other, when we can't see and or appreciate each other's strengths. What happens is we jump to conclusions. We make judgments. Conflicts can arise. We're quick to blame and we become defensive. Have you ever been in one of these situations at work or at home? What does it look like? When I'm not operating at my best, it looks like a weakness. And automatically the message becomes, I'm not good enough. Go fix it. Be something else. Our weaknesses and frustrations manifest when we're trying to be or do something we're not. So instead, be authentic you. Be the best version of yourself. Do you. The good news is your strengths are available to you and they serve as your best opportunity for personal and team excellence and fulfillment. Imagine where you and your team could be if you applied your strengths every day. Sydney loved looking at strengths to find creative ways to solve problems. It helped her see them through a different lens and to stay true to herself in the process. She knows she has what it takes to get unstuck and move forward, which is so important, especially in these crazy times that we're in. So show up with your strengths. Start having the conversations. Again, it's contagious. When you start talking about the contributions that you want to make and the needs of your strengths, you start to see them in other people too. And stop weakness fixing. Invite them to do the same. Certainly, if there's a compelling, good enough reason to make improvements, which you brought up earlier, Eric. So, relationships are important to you. Certainly, we choose to try and we get better in those areas. Recognizing that there's there's so far that we're going, that we may go in those areas. Marcus Buckingham gives us, who's one of the thought leaders behind in the whole strengths movement, gives us an easy way to remember how to stop weakness fixing, how to stop our weaknesses. First, we consider is, can I eliminate the activity? If I don't have to be doing it, simply stop doing it. Think about it. If you don't have to do it, stop doing it. The T is for team up. Partner with others who are strengthened by the activity that weakens you. O is for offer up. Volunteer your strengths as often as you can and steer your job towards it. And then P is for perceive. Again, look at your weaknesses from a different perspective. Or in other words, mitigate, work around your weaknesses. The story that Marcus likes to tell is that in working with a client who had, she absolutely hated doing these expense reports. It was one of her job responsibilities, but she hated doing them. She was responsible for pulling all the expense reports together for the whole team and submitting. So they took a look at, she couldn't stop doing it. She was the only one on, it was her responsibility on the team. She couldn't partner with others. She certainly offered up her other strengths, but this particular task was something she absolutely disliked. So they took a look at her strengths. She had competition in her top 5. What they did was they started to look at this expense report in a different light. Well, how about if we try to do how about your personal best? So she started to compete with herself, and with every month would do it faster, better, more accurate. And little by little, she started to actually almost enjoy the process of doing this expense report instead of resenting this part of her job. There is transformation through strengths use. When you understand your own strengths, contributions, and needs, you get curious about other strengths and stop weakness fixing. Yeah, I think the door is closed and Kitty is locked in. So I have to wait just a second. Where can you go from here? What are next steps? Take the Clifton Strengths Assessment. And Ruth, if I could trouble you to put the link in the chat. Someone was asking earlier about how to access it. When you do your assessment, you get the definitions of your top 5. You get a customized report, because you and I might both have adaptability in our top 5, but adaptability will show up differently for us because of the combination of our strengths. So you get a customized report and an action planning guide. Your top 5 is $20. To get your full report is roughly $50, and both are available to you. I want you to reflect often. Think about the activities that you enjoy, the things you look forward to, the activities that make you feel strong, and relate back to your top 5 signature strengths. What do you see in your strengths as they relate to the things you enjoy? Commit to completing 3 of the action items in your action planning guide so that you can grow your talents into strengths. And because
Determined cat, Noreen.
I do have a determined cat.
I used to have one of those.
And because transformation, making permanent changes in our lives, does require consistent application, follow-up, support, continued conversations over time, if you'd like to adopt a strengths building approach to life and can use the support, feel it's time to get that clarity, or you have questions about what it'll take, I'm offering a discovery call to to get that clarity and explore opportunities for working together further. This is a great option if you're kind of feeling stuck where you are right now in your career, in your business, or somewhere in your life, and you don't know why. And if you're looking for that support, this is a great opportunity. The calls are complimentary. They're limited in number, and they're intended for people who are committed to making a shift and are willing to invest in themselves. If you're decisive, driven, willing to work, that sounds like you, I'd encourage you, take advantage of this complimentary call. You will get the gift of 45 minutes dedicated to all that is right with you and start to see your strengths. We'll get clear on where to look, the support you need, and explore if working together is a good fit. And if it's a good fit for you right now. And I will be honest, if the coaching programs aren't a fit, wouldn't be the best thing, I will tell you, it's not for everybody. So to get on the calendar, please simply go to the calendly.com Strengths Edge Discovery. And if you're thinking this sounds interesting, I'll jot it down, I'll check it out later. I know your schedule for the rest of the day. To give you an incentive to schedule now, so all of this clarity and good intention doesn't get lost in the shuffle. Book your call in the next 30 minutes, and you'll get copies of my two favorite coaching tools to help you start noticing and start tuning into your strengths for creative.
While she's taking care of her cough, I just wanted to draw your attention to the chat where her link information is available, and so is mine. I am that person who works with you after you work with Nermeen.
Sorry about that. Excuse me.
It's okay. You okay?
Oh, I'm doing okay. I'm sure others are dealing with the allergies this season.
Yeah.
Excuse me. All right, let's continue. And let's see. Excellent. We have, oh, awesome. We have several. Let's do our raffle. This is your last chance. If you'd like to enter the raffle, we'll do it right now. And hang on. Come on. Oh, I think you might not be able to see. Now, can you see?
Yes. I you guys, the skin thing. That's a pretty cool graphic. I like it. And we have a winner. It's Tammy. We have a winner. And guys, I'm going to stop the recording here.